Ambassador Jana Tyrer, thanks very much for joining us on Europe Now.
Thank you very much for having me.
Ambassador, the relationship between the Czech Republic and Australia has been very fruitful and productive. What should Australians know about that relationship and what's happening at the current time?
Well, it has been a long-standing relationship, of course. Our diplomatic relations have been established a long time ago, and we have historical connections thanks to our community who lives in the country and who actually emigrated to Australia at hard times of our country historically in the 20th century. Australia welcomed them with open arms and offered them refuge and a new home. Be it in 1948 after the communists took over, or 1968 after the Russian invasion into our country. But we have also a young generation who settled down in Australia now after our Velvet Revolution in 1989, using all the opportunities that Australia offers to people who come with bright minds and who want to try something else and look for a new way of life. So we are very grateful to our Czech community for actually spreading our good reputation and establishing the contacts here in Australia. And we are, of course, working on new ones as the embassy, but also as the country, looking at all the opportunities that the current times offer to us, be it in the area of business, in education, in research, cooperation, but also on political level. As two like-minded democracies, we, of course, do realize the importance of cooperation, especially in the times of current geopolitical situation and the challenges that both our countries face, or both our regions face, though we are on different parts of the world, but still there are threats that we have to live with and challenges that we have to think about. And of course, all those challenges are faced better if you have strong partners and friendly partners like Australia.
In 2024, the Czech President Pavel visited Australia, meeting with Prime Minister Anthony Elliott. There were extensive discussions about, for example, trade and defence and science and education. Can you tell me a little bit about that and what's happened since those initial meetings?
President Pavel was actually the first president visiting Australia after many, many years. So I'm extremely proud, actually, that it happened during my term, during my tenure. And I would like to also mention that we had the Minister of Foreign Affairs visiting Australia at the beginning of 2024, which actually clearly showed the interest in bilateral dialogue, in bilateral cooperation, and the topics that both our parties, both our countries feel as important. The other thing is we actually opened a new embassy or a new chancellery. We built a new building to actually prove our commitment to the region and to the active role that we want to play in Australia, but also in the wider Pacific region. The dialogue or the meetings, not only with Prime Minister Albanese, but also with the Governor General, with the representatives of the Parliament, with the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Defence, Richard Marles, and with the representatives of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, were very interesting. They concentrated on different levels of cooperation in multilateral fora, but also bilaterally in the areas that you've mentioned, of course, trade, education, research, and both parties agree that there is a potential for that. The president was actually accompanied by a business delegation. So we actually had also some business fora organized, not only here in Canberra and then in Sydney, but also in Adelaide. And I'm really happy to say that most of the companies actually found partners and now are developing cooperation and looking into deepening the economic relations between our countries. One of the topics that was also mentioned was the cooperation in the region of the Pacific, looking at areas where the Czech Republic can contribute, not only as part of the European Union through the Global Gateway initiative, but also bilaterally. offering our know-how, our expertise, our bright minds, and interesting solutions. One of the areas, for example, that was touched upon was cybersecurity, because this is a challenge that we all face, not just countries, but individuals as well in our countries. And the Czech Republic has established a very solid expertise. And I have a cyber attaché at my embassy, one of 3 in the world, real expert in the area. And we did offer her services, her boots on the ground, to simply cooperate with Australia bilaterally, but also in respect to other countries in the Pacific. I'm in charge, of course, I'm in charge of relations not only to Australia, but also New Zealand and several Pacific Island countries.
Yes.
So we are looking at the niches and then the areas where we can actually establish cooperation also in this respect.
You mentioned the European Union. For a moment, can we shift to that broader pan-European perspective? Australian Prime Minister Albanese has recently announced further to discussions with the EU President consideration of a security and defence partnership, along with the renewal of discussions regarding the free trade agreement between Australia and the European Union. Now, prior to taking up your role as ambassador in Australia, you were a Minister of European Affairs. I just wondered, could you comment on your sense of the opportunities arising from these sorts of developments, particularly in the context of the current global situation politically?
Well, I'm a typical example of a diplomat, which actually proves that you should never say never, because you never know what your job will be in the upcoming years. When I started in the diplomatic service 24 years ago, one thing I said that I wanted never to do was multilateral diplomacy like the European Union. And after all those years, I ended up as the head of the European Union Department and junior deputy minister, actually also in charge of parts of the presidency of the European Union. So I learned quite a lot about how it works. It's a very difficult mechanism, but it's the best example of regional cooperation in the world. And it's basically the guarantee of peace in Europe that has actually suffered through several conflicts during the 20th century. And it's a model that we can offer also to other regions in different areas. And one of the areas is, of course, the trade. The free trade agreement simply supports the bilateral contacts in the area of trade and economy. And it gives both sides benefits. It gives both sides actually a wider access to the markets for all the sectors across the economy. And it gives a possibility to diversify supply chains on both sides. And in the current geopolitical context, that's one of the most important things as we all follow the developments in the world, and each side has something to offer. In this respect. So I am truly happy about the restart of the discussions about the free trade agreement, and I hope they will be concluded successfully rather sooner than later.
Yes.
And the same goes for the partnership in the area of defense. It's another area where we can actually help each other, or where we can both contribute and exchange expertise and support each other's capacities and capabilities. And we have other partners who already have joined us and who now have access to the European procurements, to the European programs, etc. So I'm hoping that Australia will join them as soon as possible. And then we're looking at other areas of cooperation. Of course, European Union and Australia have signed a memorandum of understanding on the cooperation in the area of critical minerals, a very positive one. The other area where I hope to see progress is the association of Australia to the European research program Horizon Europe.
Yes.
And then we could look to further areas that we can cooperate with each other.
2025 has been a year of huge global political shifts. And some critics have been suggesting, some writers have been suggesting that we might be facing globally a kind of tipping point in terms of a kind of transition from inherited orthodox politics into new developments. I think there's a strong emphasis on the rise of right-wing political popularism throughout parts of the world. And I think that's been very relevant to the debate, particularly surrounding the future of the European Union, obviously given its strongly politically cosmopolitan focus on the protection and enhancement of a rules-based global order. The Czech Republic has elections coming up later this year, and again, there have been obviously lots of critics with their crystal balls trying to work out the political fortunes of the parties. Some worrying that, might there be the possibility of seeing the Czech Republic move towards developments as we've seen with, say, Slovakia and Hungary, with the emergence of a kind of illiberal democratic camp of politics. Is that too crude an analysis, do you think? Because I think, obviously, from the standpoint of Australia, we're a long way from Europe. So it's difficult to, at times, I think, understand the complexity of the political debates and what's happening. And I wondered if you could share with us just a perspective on current developments in the Czech Republic and what's starting to unfold as 2025 progresses.
You are correct. We will be having parliamentary elections at the beginning of October. And of course, the result will be a democratic one, and we'll see what the nation votes for. I think there is a lot of work to be done on the side of the government and of the current of democratic political parties, especially talking to the public and explaining certain things. Europe has gone through a very difficult period of time, partly due to the developments in Europe and the decisions that Europe has taken towards, for example, global responsibilities in climate change, net zero transition, etc., which of course have impact on the economies of the countries, on the rethinking of the population, and sometimes not very popular, depending what part of the country the people live in, what industries they were engaged, etc. But since February 2022, we have also faced war, or we have war in our neighborhood. And all the countries are, of course, trying to help as much as possible. And the Czech Republic has, since the beginning, been at the forefront of that striving, a very strong voice for the support to Ukraine in all the areas, be it military, be it financially, but also hosting refugees. What is probably not generally known is that the Czech Republic offered refuge to about 400,000 people. So that's for a country of 10 million. That's the highest per capita rate. Mostly women and children who have immediately received full access to the medical care, to the education, to the labor market, but also to accommodation and all those forms of assistance and support to Ukraine and Ukrainians, of course, were difficult for the budget of the country, and that in the times of rising living costs, energy prices, etc. So if you are talking to people who do not understand the importance of certain steps and certain decisions, then they might be slightly disappointed by what is happening in the country or what is happening in Europe or what decisions have been taken in global affairs. And I see the responsibility and the moral duty of the politicians to explain to the public why it is so important that we do all those steps, be it in the area of climate change, taking our global responsibility, or doing our support to giving our support to Ukraine, facing the risk of escalation of the conflict to other parts of the Europe and greater danger to even our country and our population and our neighbors. And I think so far we have been doing well. And I hope we'll be doing even better in the period to the upcoming elections.
Yes. I mean, it's really been a double challenge around migration, hasn't it? Because obviously since 2013, there had this veritable explosion in migration and asylum seekers, and particularly enforced migration. And then, as you say, the developments in the Ukraine, the aggressions of Russia. In terms of the Czech Republic, what has been the response to developments in the EU around the Migration and Asylum Pact?
Well, as you probably know, we have been one of the countries that was a bit stricter around the migration crisis in the year 2016.
Yes.
And our approach was more cautious, stressing the importance of differentiating real refugees fleeing their homes from a danger, and economic migrants going just for economic reasons, for a better future, and sometimes simply not using the legal pathways that have been established but have not been used. So we said there needs to be a balance in all the areas, actually, of the Migration and Asylum Pact. So we have to look at the borders of the European Union and make sure that we protect European Union, because the capacity of the European Union is not endless.
Yes.
Of course, we simply cannot, unfortunately, accept everybody who would like to. At the same time, we need to guarantee the security of the citizens of the countries, of the member states of the European Union. On the other hand, we have to support those who choose the legal pathways that have been established, and we have to make sure we are able to support those who are in need and really need a shelter and refuge. And there is a long-term responsibility as well, and that's making sure that we provide assistance to the countries of origin of those migrants, that they actually do not need to leave their homes and their families and friends and have a better perspective for a nice future life in their home countries, instead of setting off on a really dangerous journey towards Europe.
Climate change has been top of the political agenda for some time. The European Union is committed to carbon neutrality by 2050. What is the Czech Republic doing on this, and what has been some of its recent actions?
Well, we are committed as well, as part of the European Union, of course, all of us are, though some of us are coming from a slightly different starting point.
Yes.
And then it means that we might not be doing very fast at the beginning, or we might have to invest a lot. The Czech Republic is a very industrial country and has been since the beginning of the 20th century. Actually, before the Second World War, we were the most industrialized country in Europe, and that trend actually continued. But what also continued was our dependency on fossil fuels. And we had to rethink and are looking now into the renewables, the green energies much more. We have cut off the fuel supplies from Russia, be it crude oil or gas. We are slowing down or decreasing our dependency on coal as well. But the fact is that, unfortunately, we are not a country rich on sunshine. In comparison, for example, to Australia or to Spain in Europe. We do not have 3,000 hours per year of sunshine. We have 1,600, which is the half. And our area is also quite smaller than Australian area, where you could put all those solar panels there.
Right.
We do not have strong winds or tidal waves, so we have to really work hard looking into new sources, like hydrogen, hopefully. But part of our energy mix is also nuclear. We are one of the countries that actually use nuclear power stations. And though we are part of the European Union where not all the countries agree with nuclear energy usage, we have established an atmosphere of trust with the partners, and it works.
Ambassador, let's leave Europe and come back to Australia. Can you tell me about the embassy here, the work that you do in Canberra, and the work that you're doing with your team to support Czech communities across Australia?
First and foremost, I would like to say that it's not just the embassy that promotes the relations between our two countries and our people. We have a consulate general in Sydney as well, and then we have honorary consuls in Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, Hobart, and Brisbane. But we have also 2 honorary consulates in New Zealand and 1 in Tonga. And altogether, we try to promote the relations in any area, not just on the political level, but also looking at opportunities of cooperation between universities, supporting our communities. We have Czech schools in all bigger towns of Australia or cities of Australia, where the Czech community actually supports the learning of the Czech language and reintroduces the Czech traditions and keeps part of the Czech home in the hearts of the Czech community. We have Czech clubs, be it clubs that are based in buildings or just associations of people who want to do things together and celebrate certain traditions and certain festivities. So I think I'm truly lucky to say that I have about 30,000 honorary ambassadors in Australia.
Right.
I'm getting paid for it, it's my job, but they are the ones who do it in their free times and with their hearts.
Yes, yeah. Finally, could I ask you to look through, I don't know whether you have an ambassadorial crystal ball, but looking through your crystal ball as an ambassador, what would be your hope going forward for the relationship between the Czech Republic and Australia, and what do you think's achievable?
I would like to see the growth of the relations in every aspect, not just trade, but also people-to-people contacts. I would like to see more Australian tourists coming to our wonderful country. I know we're far, far away, but on the other hand, we are in the heart of Europe. So once you get to Europe, you have 27 countries that are just a few hours drive away from each other. And I mean, taking the Australian perspective, is just basically around the corner.
Exactly.
And in our cities, you have many centuries of history in small places, and also future. Innovative little companies, bigger companies, bright minds, research institutions. So whatever area of interest you have, you will see it. So, and vice versa. I would like to see more Czech people coming to Australia and learning about it and connecting with the people here on any occasion, in any sphere, in any sector of their life.
Ambassador Tyrer, thank you very much for joining us on Europe Now.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.